Oil giant Shell has repeatedly made false claims about the size and environmental impact of two major oil spills from their pipelines in Nigeria. That's according to documents seen by Amnesty International. The irrefutable evidence has emerged in a UK legal action brought by 15,000 people from Bodo in the Niger Delta.
The significance is that Shell has admitted now it's underestimated both the volume of oil spilt and the area impacted. And now that it's admitted that, they've a better shot at getting compensation for the actual damage done.
Shell, in a joint venture with the Nigerian government, have 60 oil fields and 700 wells there, producing almost 700,000 barrels of oil a day. In August 2008, a weld broke in a Shell pipeline, spewing like crude into the swampland. Then, in December, the pipeline broke again. In both cases, the oil spills were only stopped after 10 weeks.
The impact is absolutely devastating, from the reek of petroleum, which is just a horrible thing to have to live with for an hour, let alone day in, day out, to the damage to the waterways. And this is a delta, so it is all waterways. The waterways and the land. People have lost their livelihoods, which are in Bodo largely fishing livelihoods, so devastated. The land is polluted, so you can't grow crops, or the crops you grow smell bad. You're afraid to give the food to your children, but you don't have any alternative. And in Bodo, people's whole livelihoods have been destroyed.
The company had previously maintained that in both incidents, a total of just 4,000 barrels of oil was spilt.
And what they've said is, this is the figure on the investigation report. Now, the investigation reports are filled in by Shell. We've challenged that, we've provided evidence, and they've never provided anything to us to explain how they came up with their figure.
Amnesty International's calculated that during that 72-day period, that figure could actually have been more than 100,000 barrels. Whenever a spill occurs, there's supposed to be a joint investigation conducted by the company, the regulator, and the representatives of the local community. But in reality, it is Shell investigating itself.
Amnesty is asking for Shell to admit that its oil spill investigation system is and has been for years completely flawed, and that the joint investigation forms that they rely on, often to deny people just compensation, should just be put in the bin where they belong.
Shell has admitted that the two Bodo spills were the company's fault, but claim the vast majority of all oil pollution in the Niger Delta is due to sabotage, oil theft, illegal refining and the transporting of oil. While they will not comment on the volume of oil spilt at Bodo, they also claim that the local community stopped them from capping the leaks.
And that's not what Shell said originally. Shell said originally to Amnesty International, the BBC and others, that they couldn't pass through a place called Kedere, but you don't need to go through Kedere to get to Bodo. And we have confronted them with that fact many times. They're now saying that people in Bodo or Kedere stopped them. So they've basically thrown out a blanket excuse. But this is, in our experience doing this work, quite a common thing that Shell does. I think there's evidence that Shell has made misleading statements about the situation in the Niger Delta repeatedly, and that is about containing the reputational damage and may well be about reducing its financial liability, and this needs to be independently investigated.